Hey there and welcome back to Mass Effect 2. My name is Pete and today we complete the recruitment of Archangel. After Mordin Solus, the second squad member we can recruit here on Omega, but from what we've heard so far, one that does not necessarily have a good standing with the locals. In fact, all three of Omega's major mercenary groups are currently collaborating to take Archangel down, which puts us in a bit of a precarious situation, because we want him alive and ideally also joining our crew. To get to him, however, we have signed up with the mercenaries, as the area surrounding Archangel is very much a warzone, and only a select few individuals are allowed entry. And after signing up with the mercenaries, that is where we left off last time, we are currently standing next to a Blue Suns driver, who will in just a second get us to where we need to be.
I'm on the mission.
I hope you're ready. Archangel's been annihilating you freelancers.
And yes, we are ready to go. For the moment we have taken care of all open quests and assignments here on Omega, so the hunt for Archangel is the only thing we have left to do.
Ready when you are.
Get in.
Alright, for our squad we have a few options now, and the first of our squad members for this mission, that is going to be Zaid Masani, who we met for the first time just in the last episode, but being a mercenary himself he seems well qualified for this mission, and taking him with us actually also unlocks a few additional lines of dialogue, as well as some extra morality points. And the completionist in me of course does not want to miss out on those, so Zaid is coming with us. Mordin Solus then will sadly be sent back to the Normandy. Yes, we haven't seen him in action yet, but unfortunately at the moment he only has access to the incinerate power, and without spoiling too much, our enemies in this video will mostly have shields, which will prevent us from using incinerate and will make the power not all that useful. The same is true by the way for Jacob and his pull power, which can also only be used on enemies after their shields have been taken out. And that leaves us only with Miranda, who I think is a good choice for this mission. Not only does this allow her and to some extent also the elusive man to keep a close eye on us, but it also provides us with a squad member with access to both warp and overload, which gives us some versatility both against shielded and against armored enemies. But if you're playing yourself and you're not looking for the extra dialogue, or if you don't even have Zaid's DLC installed, then he can easily be replaced by someone else. Since this is Zaid's first appearance in our squad, we now have some leveling to do, and just like with Shepard, Miranda and Jacob before, we're going to spend all of his points in his passive class ability, so we are buying 3 ranks of mercenary veteran, which significantly increases Zaid's health and weapon damage. We now have 2 points left, but we're saving those for the next level up. That will then allow us to max out his class ability, and as you can see here, we're also doing the same with Miranda. Shepard meanwhile has no more points to spend, so we can immediately continue to the weapon selection, where we will double check and make sure to take the ML-77 missile launcher with us. There is a situation near the end of this mission where this thing will come in handy, so researching it back on the Normandy prior to this mission is definitely a good idea.
It's about time they sent me someone who looks like they can actually fight. They tell you what we're up against?
And to be honest, information about Archangel and about how things are planned to go down have been a bit scarce, so maybe the friendly Batarian here can get us up to speed.
The recruiter was a little vague.
We wouldn't get many hires if everyone knew the truth. Archangel's holed up in a building at the end of the boulevard over there. He's got superior position, and the only way in is over a very exposed bridge. It's a killing ground, but he's getting tired, making mistakes. We'll have him soon enough.
Alright, that's the situation broken down, but it still doesn't reveal much about the actual plan.
You guys have a plan?
A small team is waiting to infiltrate his hideout, but we need to draw Archangel's fire so they can move in.
And that's where we come in?
Exactly. You'll be on a distraction team. Head straight over the bridge and keep Archangel busy so the infiltration team can sneak in behind him.
That's goddamn suicide.
Pretty much, but you look like you can handle it. Head up to the boulevard and get to the 3rd barricade. Talk to Sergeant Cathka. He'll tell you when to go in.
Now of course we could leave immediately, but it can't hurt to get a bit more intel. And let's start with that bridge you mentioned, because maybe there is another way in that allows us to pass by most of the mercenaries.
So the bridge is the only way to his hideout?
Exactly. Archangel collapsed all the underground passageways and sealed the doors to the lower levels. We've got teams digging, but it's taking too long. If they can get the gunship flying again, that'll help. But I'm hoping the infiltration team will finish the job and we can all go home.
They were using a gunship to take out one guy?
Yeah, and Archangel shut it down. He didn't destroy it, but he knew just where to hit it to disable it. It wasn't even a fair fight. At least not for us.
Alright, sounds like we are in fact stuck with the mercs, and also with what sounds like a pretty dangerous approach across that bridge.
Where's the infiltration team now?
On the far side of the bridge near his hideout, but they can't get any closer without being seen.
How'd they get that close without being seen?
More distractions. Tariq used a gunship to keep Archangel busy. We were able to sneak a few men into his hideout before he took it down, but they're stuck there. We need to keep Archangel focused on the bridge, so he doesn't find them and wipe them out.
With the infiltration team stuck, it at least seems like the mercenaries are not going to get to Archangel first, which is definitely a relief considering our plans for him, and also gives us time to ask one more question, this time about the man himself.
What do you know about Archangel?
I'm the wrong guy to ask. I just do logistics. Tariq and the other merc bosses have been dealing with him for a while now. But don't be surprised if they're not thrilled about talking to a freelancer.
Right, and that is all we can get out of our welcoming committee here, but it sounds like there is a bit more info to be obtained, so let's be on our way and see who can tell us more.
I better go find Sergeant Cathka.
Good idea. Watch yourself on the boulevard. Archangel's killed dozens out there already.
In's gonna be easy. Out's gonna be a bitch.
And while I am inclined to agree with him here, we should take things one step at a time. After all, we don't even know who this Archangel guy actually is.
Let's find him first. Then we'll figure out how to get back.
Shepard, I've scanned the area, but I am unable to plot any other paths to Archangel.
Guess we're going with the mercs.
The heavy mechs and gunship possess considerable firepower. Weakening them before leaving will improve your chances.
As the first wave goes in, the infiltration team will attempt to take Archangel by surprise. I don't expect much from the freelancers. When they fail, we're up next. The light mechs go in first. If that's not enough, we send in the heavy. Be prepared. Do you need something?
Alright, quick recap. Edie just mentioned a few things we can do to weaken the mercenaries' attacks, and we have now also met the first guy who looks like he knows a bit more, so let's try to confirm that hunch.
You lead the Eclipse?
You figure that out by yourself? I'm Garrus. I run Omega's Eclipse. What do you need, freelancer?
Alright, a person of power within the Eclipse, and we will actually also start off by asking about the mercenaries, which will unlock another very important codex entry for us.
Why are Eclipse on Omega in the first place?
Since you care so much, Eclipse controls almost 20% of Omega. Our transports and mechs keep the EZO moving.
Sounds very organized.
Eclipse runs like a well-oiled machine, but Omega is anything but organized. It's a constant battle for control. Then Archangel comes along and complicates things even more.
Why does Archangel give you so much trouble?
Ask him. I'm just here to make as much money as I can. We didn't come to Omega to be constrained by laws and regulations. He'll regret ever coming to Omega, I promise you.
Seems like this is personal for you.
He raided one of my transports last month, killed 2 of my best operatives. One of them was my brother, so yes, it's pretty damn personal.
Now, in the short conversation we caught earlier, Jareth was going over when to send in the mechs, which leads me to believe he knows a bit more about how the attack is supposed to go down, and maybe he can share a bit of that information with us.
So the infiltration team is the main focus of the attack?
Tariq's plan, not mine. He doesn't want to lose any more men, so he's throwing you freelancers at the problem. Archangel's not going anywhere, so I suppose there's no harm in trying. Who knows? Maybe you'll get lucky.
So you're just gonna hide here while the freelancers get killed?
Precisely. You're paid to be a distraction, nothing more. Whether you survive or not is up to you.
Also, unlike the mercenaries we've met so far, Jareth seems to hold a very personal grudge against Archangel, but that could also mean that he knows a bit more about the guy behind the name.
What do you know about Archangel?
His life expectancy is shortening quickly.
Is that it? Nobody seems to know anything about him.
Look around, you'll learn what you need to know. He's smart, he's resourceful, and he's dangerous. But we've got him cornered. He won't be making fools of us much longer. Can I assist you further?
Where did he come from? Who is he?
Even his team didn't know that. Maybe we'll know more once we have his body. Of course, it really won't matter then.
Okay, sounds like that is all for this conversation. We learned a bit more about the Eclipse, not so much about Archangel though, but for now it will have to do.
I'll get going.
Good idea.
And here we are, we just obtained the codex entry about the Eclipse, and feel free to double check this, but if my notes are correct, this is number 15 of the playthrough, and that means we have just unlocked the Scholar achievement. Over on the table here, we can now also take a look at a very interesting datapad. You can pause here if you want to read the entire thing. The most important bits are that this is a message from Tariq, leader of the Blue Suns, to Jareth, leader of the Eclipse, and in the final sentence it is mentioned that the mercenaries are planning to make moves against Arya. And that is definitely something that she would want to know about, so we are now taking this datapad with us, and who knows, maybe we can present it to her in a moment of convenience. Up next, we now enter a small storage room. Inside, we can first hack our way into a datapad for 4,000 credits, before helping ourselves to 500 units of Element 0. In the back we then also find a heavy mech, and let's remember what Jareth said earlier. There is a high chance this thing could appear on the battlefield, so we are now bypassing its security systems, which will sabotage the mech and reconfigure its targeting parameters.
That should slow him down.
Perfect. It'll be hostile if they activate it.
Alright, that should make survival a bit easier for Archangel. Still, we have not reached him yet, and there is still some more information to be obtained, so let's see if we can find someone in the next room who can tell us a bit more.
You're in the wrong place, freelancer.
Now, the name Garm was already mentioned in the datapad that we collected earlier, so he also seems to play a prominent role for the mercenaries, so let's ask what that role actually is.
You the blood pack leader?
Name's Garm. That's all you need to know. I'm stuck here waiting till you freelancers are done playing war. Ask your questions and go.
Alright, straight to business, so let's not keep him waiting, and this time we'll start with the strategy.
When did the blood pack attack?
Damn Tariq wants us to wait. I hate waiting. But he says the Suns have a plan, and they don't want us getting in their way. We're supposed to wait until the Eclipse send their mechs. We'll see.
So, from what we know at this point, the Eclipse and the mechs are up first, and then the blood pack are next, and we know a bit about them already. Still, should we once again have to fight them, a bit more info can't hurt.
Why are the blood pack on Omega?
We're the muscle on this bloody station. You need protection or want someone removed, talk to us. The blood pack are everywhere on Omega. Everybody loves us, and everybody hates us.
I'm guessing Archangel mostly just hates you.
He's just an uptight asshole. I don't really care what he thinks. But he's costing me men and making me work for my money. I'll be the one to take him out today. You watch. I'm the only one who's fought him one-on-one.
And this is very interesting here. Garm mentions that he has personally fought Archangel before, so maybe he could be the first one to actually tell us something useful about the guy.
What do you know about Archangel?
He's a pain in the ass. He's a Turian, which makes him slightly worse to look at than you. And he's brave, till he realizes you're more than he bargained for.
Sounds like you've had personal experience.
He tried to take me down once, waited till I was alone. Longest damn fight of my life, but I held him off till my men showed up. He wasn't so tough after that. We chased him over half of Omega. Almost had him. But the slippery bastard snuck away before we could pin him down.
Alright, so we're dealing with a Turian and Archangel. I suppose it doesn't change much, but at least it's nice to know.
I should get going.
About time.
Asking about the blood pack also just earned us another codex entry, and we want to continue to collect all of those. Even though the achievement is already unlocked, this is a completionist playthrough after all, and that means we are of course going after every single codex entry in the game. Taking our first steps into the warzone, we immediately see a blood pack Vorcha get killed. His companion meanwhile is busy keeping himself alive, and so no one is stopping us from hacking another datapad, which gives us an additional 6,000 credits. Our next destination is then the first door on the right here. It is currently locked but can easily be bypassed, and inside we find quite a few goodies. First of all, we can recover some research data for an SMG damage upgrade. Then we can steal another 4,000 credits from the Blue Suns, before also getting our hands on some additional heavy weapon ammo. As we make our exit, we can then stock up on some medigel. Since we upgraded our capacity, we have some room for more, and that now completes our sweep through the room and we can continue onwards.
What do you want, freelancer?
Now this right here is the corridor we want to head into next, not only because of the medigel in the back, but also because it allows us to meet the third mercenary leader.
Tell Cathka to get that gunship working, or he'll be next over that bridge. And somebody get me those damn blueprints, now! Get this freelancer out of here. I don't have time for this shit.
Alright, welcome to Blue Suns HQ. This right here is Tariq, and he immediately presents us with a chance for morality points. As usual, both options give points. We have the choice between Paragon and Renegade, and since we are playing Paragon, we're going with the corresponding option.
I just have a few questions about the operation.
Get this scum out of my face.
Tariq, what seat in your ass?
Zaid.
And this right here is the extra bit of dialogue for which we brought Zaid with us, and now we can actually get ourselves 2 free Renegade points as well, simply by selecting the lower of the 2 dialogue options here.
You know this asshole, Zaid?
We worked together once.
Since when do you work for so little?
Since when are you a goddamn madman?
It's Archangel. This guy's gonna kill me. Almost did already.
That bad, huh?
Worse. Look, Saeed, I gotta deal with this shit. Jinta, talk to these guys. Answer whatever questions they have. Good to see you. And who knows, maybe you'll solve my problem for me.
Anything's possible.
Good thing you know him. Tariq hates having to hire freelancers. He doesn't trust anyone outside the Blue Suns.
You don't say.
What can I do for you?
Now, the conversation here is unfortunately a bit glitchy. You just saw the face models not showing correctly, but that of course should not keep us from asking important questions, and since we're dealing with the top of the top in the Blue Suns, we might as well learn a bit more about their organization.
What do the Blue Suns do on Omega?
We supply goods to a lot of the groups and factions here.
Good?
Weapons, mechs, machinery, you name it, we can get it. We also broker deals between factions. You wouldn't know it to look at him now, but Tariq can be quite a negotiator.
How did Archangel get the Blue Suns so mad at him?
He harasses and hounds us constantly. We worry that every job is a trap now. Does he know where this meeting is? Will this shipment suddenly disappear? How many men will we lose this time? Tariq's had enough. I don't blame him.
Now, Tariq is also the one who coordinates the entire attack, so if there is any tactical insight we haven't received so far, now is the time to get it.
What's Tariq gonna do if the infiltration team fails?
To start, he'll shoot any freelancers that are still alive. After that, he'll let Eclipse and the Blood Pack take their shots. I suggested we work together, but he doesn't trust the other groups.
What if Archangel survives all the attacks? Then you Suns are on your own.
That's why Tariq wants that gunship fixed so badly. But it won't come to that. Archangel's good, but he can't hold out that long. He's already been in there over a day.
And finally, even though I suppose we know as much as anybody about the guy at this point, let's also ask for information about Archangel one more time.
What do you know about Archangel?
He's a Turian vigilante who thinks killing mercs is a fun way to pass the time. Other than that, he's a mystery. He shows up, usually at the worst possible time, and screws with our work. He can't die soon enough, if you ask me.
Why do you hate him so much?
He went after Tariq, at his home. Almost got him. Tariq's been on edge ever since, and he's making my life a living hell. Second guesses every damn thing I do. Getting the other merc bands to help us shows you just how desperate he is. They're as bad as Archangel.
Alright, and once again, that is all we can get out of this conversation, and the picture is as clear as it gets at this point, so let's walk away and make our way over to Sergeant Cathka to begin the assault.
We better get going.
Good idea. Make sure you check in with Cathka.
And from this conversation we obtain a Codex entry as well as 2 Paragon and 2 Renegade points.
I'm looking for Sergeant Cathka.
You and me both, pal. He's over there working on the gunship. We go over the bridge when he gives the word. Go talk to him if you want, but I'm in no hurry.
Over by the bridge here, then we meet up with another freelancer. However, this guy does not seem to be too eager to get the fighting started, and with the information we have so far, I honestly can't blame him. Still, this is not exactly role model behavior.
Why haven't you talked?
Because I'm not stupid. This assault is damn dangerous.
Alright, it looks very much like we're heading into the Lion's Den.
Watch out!
Still, let's now begin the conversation that marks the point of no return for this mission. Let's talk to Sergeant Cathka and tell him that we're ready.
Cathka?
Sergeant Cathka. You must be the group Salky mentioned. You're just in time.
Now, we could ask who the name Salky belongs to, but if you paid attention, you know that it was the guy who welcomed us at the beginning of the level when we arrived, so let's not waste any time and report for duty.
Were you waiting for us?
The infiltration team is about to give us a signal. Archangel won't know what hit him. Got any questions? This may be your last chance.
And while we have asked quite a few questions already, let's once again ask about how the attack is planned to go down. Since Cathka seems to be coordinating the freelancers, he might be able to tell us a bit more about our role in the fight.
So our plan is to jump the wall and head for Archangel's building?
And try not to get killed too fast. You're only a distraction, as long as you're alive. You don't have to make it all the way across. Just keep Archangel watching that bridge. The infiltration team will do the rest.
Now, we have heard about this infiltration team numerous times now, but what we don't know at this point is how they're actually going to infiltrate Archangel's building.
How will the infiltration team get to Archangel?
They've got 2 options. They trap him in close quarters and finish the bastard off face to face. If that doesn't work, they have explosives. They'll just need time to set up.
And I know we have asked this question once before, but let's make absolutely sure that we have no other option but to head across that bridge.
So the bridge is the only way in?
Until the gunship's working again or the blasters finish with the tunnels. Look, we got a plan. We don't need you trying to come up with any great ideas. Just do your damn job, collect your credits, and go home.
Now we are going to completely ignore that last bit and ask about the gunship instead. After all, should that gunship actually join the fight, Archangel could be in huge trouble.
Are you gonna give us cover with the gunship?
Tariq is the only one who flies her. Besides, she's not quite ready. That bastard Archangel gave her a beating last time she was out there. A few more tweaks, she'll be as good as new.
Why are you coordinating the attack and fixing gunships?
I'm in the infiltration group. Our team coordinates with the gunship. I'm staying back to organize the freelancers and make sure the gunship's ready to go if we need her.
Alright, that's now all the questions we can ask apart from this one, which will also in a second prompt us with a chance for a renegade interrupt, one that we will definitely want to take as it makes the rest of the mission a tiny bit easier.
Are you leading the assault?
Ha! Tariq doesn't pay me to fight. I just plan the attacks and fix the damn gunship. You freelancers get the privilege of... Check. Bravo team, go, go, go! Archangel's got quite a surprise waiting for him. But that means no more waiting for me. Gotta get her back to 100% before Tariq decides he needs her again.
You're working too hard.
Archangel doesn't have much time left.
What the hell are we waiting for?
Come on, we'll give these guys a surprise of our own.
Incoming!
I'm going in!
Right, here we are heading over the bridge and beginning the assault, but since we want Archangel alive, this is now the point where we are switching sides. The mercenaries have gotten us this far, but now they stand between us and Archangel, so let's take them out as we fight our way up to the Turian. Overloading the shields on the first freelancer here also gets us one step closer to the Overload Specialist achievement, for which we need to use Overload to deplete the shields of 25 enemies. We are now at 7, but the second half of the video is going to drive that number up significantly. Now, you might have also noticed Archangel's yellow health bar in the lower right corner, which is essentially our timer for this mission. Of course, our job is to make sure that Archangel stays alive, so while we need to be careful of course, since we're playing on Insanity difficulty, we also have a moderate sense of urgency for this mission, and especially in the beginning here, while we're just fighting freelancers, we shouldn't take too much time. Now we have made it into the ground floor, and before we head upstairs there are a few things that we want to collect, namely 2 medkits that give us 100 credits each since we're stocked full, and also some research data that will increase our attack damage.
This might be useful.
Look right.
Once we have everything we can head up, where we meet another small group of 2 enemies who are currently trying to get through the door. However, as you can imagine, these 2 are easily defeated. Another well-timed overload removes the shields on the first, and it doesn't take long until his companion also goes down. Now the door at the end of the corridor here has been unlocked, but we're not going through yet. Instead we can collect some more credits from a medkit and then also from a wall save. And inside of this room in the back here there's also another medkit in the far corner, and of course we don't want to miss that either. Now the number of medkits here already foreshadows that the remainder of the video is going to be very heavy on the fighting, but if you're careful your squad should be able to survive everything even on Insanity difficulty.
Archangel?
Shepard. I thought you were dead.
Well, if that isn't an all too familiar face. Yes, Archangel does in fact seem to be none other than Garrus Vakarian, everyone's favorite Turian squad mate from Mass Effect 1. And not only that, he also immediately presents us with the chance for 2 more Paragon points. Renegade points could be had for the option at the bottom, but of course we're not after those.
Garrus, what are you doing here?
Just keeping my skills sharp. A little target practice.
You okay?
Been better, but it sure is good to see a friendly face. Killing mercs is hard work, especially on my own.
Right, so it seems like the first wave of attackers has been defeated, but after talking to the mercenaries, that was to be expected. After all, the freelancers were always supposed to be cannon fodder. But with that break in the action, we can now ask a few questions, and let's start with that somewhat unusual name that Garrus has given himself.
Since when did you start calling yourself Archangel?
It's just a name the locals gave me for all my good deeds. I don't mind it, but please, it's just Garrus to you.
And that of course leads us straight to the next question. What the hell has Garrus gotten himself into here?
How'd you manage to piss off every major merc organization in the Terminus systems?
It wasn't easy. I really had to work at it. I am amazed that they teamed up to fight me. They must really hate me.
Now, Garrus of course had a background in CSEC back on the Citadel, so after the events of Mass Effect 1, Omega would not have been my first choice.
What are you doing out here on Omega?
I got fed up with all the bureaucratic crap on the Citadel. Figured I could do more good on my own. At least it's not hard to find criminals here. All I have to do is point my gun and shoot.
And speaking of shooting, we might have actually caught a bullet or two during our approach, which makes me wonder whether or not Garrus knew we were coming in the first place.
You nailed me good a couple of times, by the way.
Concussive rounds only, no harm done. Didn't want the mercs getting suspicious.
Uh-huh.
If I wanted to do more than take your shields down, I'd have done it. Besides, you were taking your sweet time. I needed to get you moving.
Right then, it is now time to continue the mission. As you might have expected, we are far from done here. The freelancers were only the mercenaries' first wave, so we're not exactly ready to make our exit just yet.
Well, we got here, but I don't think getting out will be as easy.
No, it won't. That bridge has saved my life, funneling all those witless idiots into scope. But it works both ways. They'll slaughter us if we try to get out that way.
So we just sit here and wait for them to take us out?
It's not all that bad. This place has held them off so far. And with 3 of you, I suggest we hold this location, wait for a crack in their defenses, take our chances. It's not a perfect plan, but it's a plan.
Well, it looks like we really don't have other options, but that of course begs the question how Garrus got pinned down here in the first place.
How'd you let yourself get into this position?
My feelings got in the way of my better judgment. It's a long story. I'll make you a deal. You get me out of here alive, and I'll tell you the whole damn thing.
And once again, a morality choice is coming up now, and the option at the top is the one we want to choose for 2 Paragon points. Also, if we think back to Jareth, then up next should be the Mechs, which will actually in just a moment give us the chance for another worthwhile renegade interruption.
If we fight as a team, we'll hold them off.
You're right. Their numbers won't help them in here anyway. Let's see what they're up to. Looks like they know their infiltration team failed. Take a look. Scouts. Eclipse, I think.
More than scouts. One less now, though.
Indeed. We better get ready. I'll stay up here. I can do a lot of damage from this vantage point. You can do what you do best. Just like old times, Shepard. Let's give these bastards everything we've got.
Alright, the mechs are approaching, but our first priority here is to get a new weapon. Right behind us here we can obtain the M15A Vindicator battle rifle, which will now instantly replace our assault rifle, and you will soon see that it is a substantial upgrade. Now, as you can see, we are in fact dealing with mechs, but nothing too crazy. Some well-placed headshots can easily kill them even though they have armor, and that is also going to be the strategy for the first few moments of this fight. We have the perfect position up here, and there is no reason to give that up just yet. As you can see, Garrus' health bar is also back once again, and it does in fact continue to tick down from the level it was at before we talked to him. So once again, we need to find a good balance between playing it safe and taking out the enemies as quickly as possible. Now, the mechs are largely taken out already, and with that we can quickly grab ourselves some ammo, but we can also see the Eclipse has not given up just yet and more troops have been deployed, this time in the form of Eclipse troopers. Just like the mechs before them though, they are not the toughest enemies to take down, and it's mostly their numbers that could become a bit of a problem here. Now, as you just heard, we also have enemies inside of the base already, but we can ignore those at least for the first few moments. It takes a while for them to get upstairs, and our squad members are of course also keeping watch, so as long as we have sniper ammo, we will continue to focus on the bridge ahead of us. Across that bridge, we can also see some slightly more advanced troops approaching, which could become a problem if we let them get into the base unharmed.
Eclipse mercs, rear stairs.
And this right here is now our cue as we land one last shot on the Eclipse Heavy. We have enemies in the building and we should now respond. Again though, we're not facing anything we can't handle at this point. The Vindicator assault rifle packs a big punch, and that is more than enough to take the Eclipse troops out without any issues. Now, the Vindicator assault rifle offers a slight change compared to the M8 Avenger that we had equipped earlier, and that is the fact that the Vindicator fires in bursts. This makes it highly accurate and gives it low recoil, both things that the Avenger was only mediocre at. Not to mention, the Vindicator also has a much higher base damage, so it is in all aspects a clear upgrade over the Avenger. Its high accuracy is also very useful because it allows us to reliably target enemies' heads, something that could not really be done with the Avenger, simply due to its wide bullet spread. The overload here to remove the shields, by the way, that marks number 10 of 25 for the Overload Specialist achievement, so we are making good progress on that front as well. Now, since we are doing a lot of fighting here, this mission is of course also very well suited to go after some of the other achievements in the game. I am of course talking about combat-related achievements, such as Merciless, Incineration Specialist or Tactician. To work on Incineration Specialist, for example, you would want to have Morden in your squad, since he has access to the Incinerate power, and if you want to go with Tactician, then you probably have to go with Miranda and Jacob, since you want to combine biotic powers for that achievement, and those two are very likely the only biotics you have in your squad at this point. Of course, if you're not playing a soldier class Commander Shepard, then you have a bit more liberty, but ultimately all of these achievements will of course come naturally at one point or another.
You want something done properly. All right, let's see how you handle this, Archangel. Go!
Online!
Sending out the heavy mechs.
That problem should take care of itself.
And here we now in fact see the heavy mech that we tampered with earlier, and we can actually head out to the front lines for this part of the fight. Since we have reprogrammed the mech, it is now focusing on the Eclipse troops, who, being simple troopers, of course do not stand a chance. Meanwhile, we can use our sniper rifle to take potshots at the mech. Should it run out of enemies to kill, it will eventually come for us, and it's a good idea to take it out before that happens. We can even overload and remove the mech's shields to get one step closer to the Overload Specialist achievement, while the mech itself continues to absolutely shred through everyone who comes across the bridge. This, by the way, also keeps Garrus in relative safety for the duration of this fight. As you can see, his health bar is not moving down any further at the moment, and well, we are also not in particular trouble at the moment. Now, to finish off the mech, it's a good idea to land a headshot, as that will cause it to blow up in a huge explosion, killing a few additional enemies in its close vicinity. However, the fight isn't over yet, because with the mech taken out, a few more of the Eclipse troops make their way across the bridge. And as you can see here, we are no longer dealing only with simple troopers. Instead, we have everything from vanguards to engineers to heavies, and also, most importantly, the leader of the Eclipse on Omega, Jareth himself. Now, for this fight, it probably couldn't hurt to move back upstairs if you're playing on Insanity difficulty. Especially Jareth, who's using an M6 Carnifex pistol, is hitting very hard. But then again, staying right here near the bridge and behind cover, that is drawing all the attention away from Garrus, who is still on the upper level, and whose health bar remains the overall deciding factor in this mission. This position right here also allows us to pin the enemies down on the bridge, so at the moment we are receiving support fire from above, something that would not happen if we were fighting inside of the building. Now, as you can see here, Jareth has the ability to deploy a combat drone. However, especially in environments like these with lots of cover, the combat drone is actually not going to be all that useful. It only has a close-range shock attack, and as you can see here, it frequently gets stuck behind cover, and is therefore not much of a danger to us at the moment. Still, before it finds its way to us, we can quickly take it out. Apart from Jareth, the rest of the battlefield looks pretty depleted already, so at this point it's a good idea not to risk anything. Jareth himself, meanwhile, remains the number one threat, but his armor is already halfway taken down, and even though he comes over here from behind to flank us, once that final layer of protection is removed, Jareth himself is also taken out very quickly. One last enemy then finds his end on the bridge, and with that we have taken care of the Eclipse as well, but as you can imagine, we are still not done yet.
Looks like that's all of them. Come find me before they regroup. You're kicking ass, Shepard. They barely touched me. And we got Jareth in the process. I've been hunting that little bastard for months.
Right, sounds like this mission definitely doesn't lack personal grudges, and since Jareth wasn't exactly the most friendly to us, let's ask Garrus what he knows about the guy.
Why were you after him?
He's been shipping tainted Ezo all over Citadel space. Half the goods I seized back at CSEC came from his team here on Omega. I took out a big shipment a while back and killed his top lieutenant in the process. Not surprised he decided to work with the other mercs after that.
Now at this point it should seem obvious that we are of course not in the clear yet. We have seen no signs of Bloodpack or Blue Suns yet, so let's ask Garrus how to proceed.
We've still got Bloodpack and Blue Suns left. Think we can make a break for it?
Maybe. Let's see what they're up to. They've reinforced the other side, heavily, but they're not coming over the bridge yet. What are they waiting for?
What the hell was that?
Damn it. They breached the lower level. Well, they had to use their brains eventually. You'd better get down there, Shepard. I'll keep the bridge clear.
Okay, now we could take Miranda and Zaid and simply head out, or we could have someone stay back to fight alongside Garrus. And since that will make Garrus' health bar drop a lot slower, it is also the option we're going with, and we're also getting ourselves 5 Paragon points in the process by selecting the dialogue option on the top left.
Let's split up 2 and 2. Keep one of my team here.
You sure? Who knows what you'll find down there?
Now for me the choice here was simple, we will have Zaid stay with Garrus. The reason for that is I want to have access to Miranda's warp ability, which is very useful against armored enemies with health regeneration, and spoiler alert, we're going to see a lot of those very soon.
Zaid, stay with Garrus. Keep him alive.
Roger that.
Thanks, Shepard. You better get going.
Before we leave though, let's quickly get ourselves some directions. If you're playing through this level for the first time, the door is a tiny bit hidden.
How do I get to the basement?
Go down a level. The basement door is on the west side of the main room behind the stairs. I'll radio directions if you need help, but you've got to get down there quick. Good luck.
Alright, here we are, ready to move out, and we have obtained 5 Paragon points for our choices. Before we head down though, there is a footlocker over in the back here, and since that one holds 2000 credits, we of course do not want to miss it. Now though, it's time to take Miranda and make our way downstairs. As long as we are inside of the main building here, Garrus' health bar remains unchanged, but of course you can imagine the infiltration team will not attack without support from the bridge, so Garrus and Zaid will also come under fire soon enough.
Shutter before they can get through.
Taking cover!
Alright, 3 shutters need to be closed, and the first one is right in front of us. As soon as we press the button, some Bloodpack appear and try to breach their way into the base, but even if we don't fire at all here, these are just not fast enough, and the shutter soon closes before they can get inside.
There's 2 more shutters. Get them closed fast.
Okay, 2 more shutters remain, and we'll proceed with the one on the right here. In my opinion, the most difficult one of the 3, which is also why I want to give it priority over the one at the other end, because if you fail you don't lose as much progress, and at least for the moment time is also still very much on our side, so for now we're not under heavy pressure, which means we can take things slowly and methodically, and on Insanity difficulty I think that's by far the best approach for this room. Now, if we had Zaid with us in the squad, this would of course make the fight a lot easier, but then again, not having him with us also buys us a bit more time, which in the end might actually be a bit more valuable.
Find the large shutters and seal them.
Now, looking at Garrus' health bar, we are of course in no hurry yet. The first few fights went pretty smoothly, and so like I said, we can take it slow here in an area that is very difficult to clear out. Now, as expected, we are dealing with the Bloodpack, and that means Vorcha, Varren and the occasional Krogan, all enemies without shielding, so Miranda might not be the best choice in this case. But as we know, especially the Vorcha have very fast health regeneration, and that is where Miranda's warp comes into play, which can stop that regeneration entirely.
Heading to cover.
Now, the main issue in this area is not necessarily that the button for the shutter is extremely far away from where we entered, but rather that the area between us and the shutter is mostly open ground despite a few boxes being scattered around. So as soon as you leave cover, every single enemy in the area has a good chance to fire at you, which understandably makes it very difficult to get to the shutter in the first place. So simply rushing through, hitting the button and then hoping for the best, that is unfortunately not going to work on Insanity difficulty. Not only because you're probably getting killed before you reach the end, but also because the shutter needs to be unobstructed for it to be able to close. So after you hit the button, you also have to keep the enemies away, otherwise once the 10-second countdown is complete, the shutter simply won't close, and you will have to press the button again and start all over. Now at this point Miranda unfortunately goes down. After all, she's not the most sturdy member of our squad, but we have defeated a good number of enemies already, and the area is somewhat clear for the moment. So eventually we do actually manage to get closer to the shutter. Also, especially looking at our sniper rifle, it is very important to pick up any ammo we find along the way, because remember, this is only the second of 3 shutters we need to close. And while number 3 is in my opinion a bit easier than this one, it still won't hurt to approach it with a full magazine. And with one more Vorcha and one more Varren taken out, we can actually seal the shutter now, or at least we can commence the process, because once again, as soon as we hit the button, more enemies are rushing in. Thankfully though, the bulk of the group jumps the barricade a bit too late, and with that, shutter number 2 is closed as well. Now once again, we want to collect a bit more ammo here. Looking at Garrus's health bar, we still have a good amount of time left, and before we leave, let's not forget about the thing that I almost forgot about here. There is a medkit over in the corner on the box here, and even though we are still stocked full, we want to grab that for the 100 credits. With the area cleared of enemies and loot, we can now make our way over to the third and final shutter, which conveniently enough is located right across on the opposite side. There is also another medkit on the floor to the left that we don't want to miss, and then it's time to once again open up the door and engage the enemies behind it. More Bloodpack Vorcha are waiting, but this time the area is much more closed off, and with that our approach is of course also much more protected. Especially since our enemies have no other option but to engage us straight on, the sniper rifle is a good choice. Despite their armor and health regeneration, the Vorcha are still pretty weak enemies, and a well-placed headshot is a one-shot kill most of the time. What also makes this fight a lot easier is the fact that there are no Varren or Krogan in the area, so we are only fighting against Vorcha, and like I said, those do not pose too much of a threat. Now, as we get to the corner here, this is where we want to be very careful, because as you can see, behind the corner we have a Bloodpack Pyro waiting to ambush us. And getting blasted with flames here is not the most fun experience, and even though we land an eventually fatal hit on the Pyro's gas tank here, we still get caught in the fire and almost die ourselves. Ultimately though, the Pyro gets blown to pieces while we are able to make a recovery, and so we can now engage the remaining few enemies. And no more Pyros this time, only standard Bloodpack troopers, and once they are taken out, the way between us and the shutter is almost cleared. Only one more enemy needs to be taken care of, and then we can rush ahead to the shutter controls, and since there is no cover here, we want to retreat a bit. At this point the first Krogan does make an appearance, but as long as we keep him on the fire, he will not be able to make it in time.
Get back here, Shepard. They're coming in through the doors.
Rip them to shreds! Watch my back. I'll deal with Archangel.
Watch out!
Alright, here we are back inside of Garrus's base, which has now been breached by Garm, the Bloodpack leader, and Garm has also brought a few more friends with him. However, compared to what we faced before, this part of the fight isn't all that difficult. We have Zaid back in the squad and can make use of his abilities, and the two Krogan also immediately rush upstairs, which leaves the Vorcha and a single Varren fairly unprotected on the ground floor. So unsurprisingly, those enemies fall pretty quickly, and with that we can follow the Krogan up the stairs. Now, while Garm continues to fight Garrus, his Krogan companion engages us, but he has also taken quite the beating and at this point is not too much of a threat. And that now leaves us only with Garm himself, who is outnumbered 4-1, but who also has a barrier and a layer of armor protecting him. The barrier, however, is quickly removed, especially the warp is very useful here. Still, we have to make sure to stay in cover, otherwise Garm's shotgun will tear us to pieces very quickly. In the end, we only have to shimmy from one side of cover to the next. Garm does not seem to be overly eager to engage in melee, which ultimately probably saved us here. This way we can slowly strip away his armor. Zaid's concussive shot then throws him to the ground, where we can then finish him off up close and personal.
Thanks, Shepard. They hardly got through to me. And we took out Garm and his blood pack. This day just gets better and better. He was one tough son of a bitch.
Now, we know from Garm himself that the two of them had a bit of a history, and while we have a moment to catch our breath here, let's have Garrus tell us a bit more.
You fought with him before?
Yeah, we tangled once. Caught him alone, none of his gang to help him. I still couldn't take him out. I've never seen a Krogan regen that fast. He's a freak of nature. He just kept at it until his Vorcha showed up. It was close, but I had to let him go. Not this time.
Right, and now we have taken care of both the Eclipse and the Blood Pack, so the Blue Suns are the only ones left, so maybe we should now take our chances.
Only the Blue Suns are left. I say we take our chances and fight our way out.
I think you're right. Tariq's got the toughest group, but nothing we haven't faced before. Besides, he won't be expecting us to meet him head-on.
Get your head down!
Damn it! I thought I took that thing out already.
They fixed it, but not completely. I made sure of that.
Alright, here come the Blue Suns as expected with the gunship, but since we conveniently incapacitated Sergeant Cathka earlier, the Batarian was unable to fix up the gunship properly, so its armor is currently only halfway functional. For the moment though, the gunship itself does not even engage, instead it's unloading troops, including Genta, who we just talked to earlier and who is by far the most dangerous enemy in the group here. She is pretty tough to take down though, so it's actually a good idea to take care of her troops first, that way we at least don't have multiple enemies firing at us at once. You can see though that this is by far easier said than done. The area that we're fighting in provides a lot of cover for both sides. Genta, by the way, is also equipped with the M76 Revenant, and that is the assault rifle that upgrades the Vindicator that we just obtained, so needless to say her damage output is insane, and combined with double layers of protection in the form of shields and armor, Genta is far from an easy nut to crack, even though her troops are quickly taken out. Especially as she likes to move from cover to cover while firing at us, it makes hitting her a tough job, because only a few bullets completely strip away our shields and force us to hide again in order to recover. However, this also makes the sniper rifle a good choice for the fight, as we only need to pop out of cover once and land a headshot, which as you can see then deals massive amounts of damage. And with both shields and armor removed, Genta is getting closer to the end. She is now vulnerable to all of our abilities, and with combined efforts we eventually take her out. Now, more troops are coming in, but thankfully the hardest part of the fight is over already. These are just standard Blue Suns troopers with the occasional heavy mixed in. Nothing we haven't faced before, and definitely also nothing that will give us too much trouble. Another overload to remove shields, and we're now up to 14 of 25. And with that, the overload specialist achievement is getting closer and closer. With the heavy taken out, we then engage another enemy, and this time in melee, and the punch and shoot combo here also gives us another kill for the brawler achievement, where we are now at 6 of 20. Down the stairs we have a few more enemies, but once again nothing that we can't deal with. The heavy only hits our cover and then goes down shortly after, and that leaves us with a single legionnaire who, despite his offensive capabilities, also goes down rather quickly. At this point we can already head back to our squad members who are engaged with the final enemy of the area. A Blue Suns Centurion has made it through the crossfire and up the stairs, but at this point he is without shields and heavily outnumbered, and therefore also defeated without much issue.
Garrus.
Bravo go.
Alright, boss fight time as Tariq and his gunship finally enter the fight, but we are as well prepared as we can be for this one. Not only is the gunship already missing a significant amount of its armor, but we also have our missile launcher out and ready to fire. And that missile launcher is immensely useful in this fight because it has seeking projectiles, so we only need to aim vaguely in the gunship's direction and the missiles will then do the rest. And as you can see, that is working like a charm. Tariq's gunship is almost destroyed already as he heads for the retreat here. 2 more missiles on the other side bring his armor down even further. Now he's out of the firing range though and drops a few more troopers, but there are no more highly dangerous enemies in this group, only a few standard troopers, and we definitely know how to deal with those. As the gunship then once again comes into firing range, it is already heavily damaged. We send 2 more missiles its way and the armor drops further and further. At this point though, we are out of missiles and have to switch over to the assault rifle, but it only takes a few more volleys and the gunship is destroyed for good.
Garrus! We're getting you out of here, Garrus. Just hold on. Radio Joker, make sure they're ready for us.
He's not gonna make it.
And here we are after more than 50 minutes with the mission finally completed. We earn another level up for our efforts and that means we will once again spend points next episode. The mission summary meanwhile shows a surprised elusive man, but the return of Garrus Vakarian was definitely one of my highlights when I played through Mass Effect 2 for the first time. We also just saw it in action for a good 20 minutes. We just obtained the Vindicator battle rifle and that will definitely make life a lot easier for us in the missions that are yet to come. We have also unlocked 2 research projects, one that will increase our squad's submachine gun damage, and a second one that increases tech damage. Looking at the credits here, we haven't missed anything. 40,000 is the maximum you can get in this mission, so the completionist in me is of course very happy with that. On top of that, we have also found 500 units of Element 0, and that is also all there is to be found in this mission.
Commander, we've done what we could for Garrus, but he took a bad hit. The doc's corrected with surgical procedures and some cybernetics. Best we can tell, he'll have full functionality, but...
Shepard?
Tough son of a bitch. Didn't think he'd be up yet.
Nobody would give me a mirror. How bad is it?
Alright, second to last morality choice of the game, although it's not much of a choice since there is only the Paragon option available.
Hell, Garrus, you were always ugly. Slap some face paint on there and no one will even notice.
Oh, don't make me laugh. Damn it, my face is barely holding together as it is. Probably for the best. Everyone was always ignoring you and hitting on me. Time for you to get a fair shot at it. Frankly, I'm more worried about you. Cerberus, Shepard. You remember those sick experiments they were doing?
This now the last dialogue choice, and this one has Paragon and Renegade, but I don't think Shepard is yet at the point where he would defend Cerberus, so we are going Paragon and show Garrus the love he deserves.
That's why I'm glad you're here, Garrus. If I'm walking into hell, I want someone I trust at my side.
You realize this plan has me walking into hell too. Just like old times. I'm fit for duty whenever you need me, Shepard. I'll settle in and see what I can do with the forward batteries.
And here we are, with Garrus successfully recruited, we unlock the Archangel achievement, and I would say it is now high time we make the cut in today's episode. Next time we'll take another tour around the Normandy, we'll have a few more conversations, and we will also return to Omega once more, because remember, there is still that very incriminating datapad from the mercenaries that Arya might be interested in. All of that and more though in the next episode. I hope you liked this one as well, even though it ran a bit longer than usual. If you did, then I would be happy if you could leave a thumbs up. And of course, as always, if you want to support the channel further, then feel free to either subscribe if you haven't already, or you can also support the Peak Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.